Have you ever sat quietly, gazing at the sky, and wondered, what happens when this life ends? Where does the soul go after it leaves the body? Does it simply disappear into nothingness, or does it travel to a hidden realm beyond the grasp of our senses? These are questions that have stirred the human heart since the beginning of time. Every culture, every faith, and every great master has offered glimpses into this mystery, yet few have spoken with the clarity and tenderness of Paramhansa Yogananda. Through his deep meditative experiences and divine realizations, Yogananda assured us that death is not an end, but a beautiful transition, a doorway into another plane of existence. In this sacred conversation today, I want to gently guide you into understanding one of the most intriguing parts of that journey, the 13 days after death. In many spiritual traditions, especially in the yogic and Vedic path, it is said that the soul lingers near the earthly realm for 13 days before moving deeper into the astral worlds. But what does this mean? Where exactly is the soul during this time? Is it aware of the people it left behind? Can it see the prayers, the tears, the memories being shared by loved ones? And why are special rituals and prayers performed during these days in so many ancient cultures? Beloved one, these aren't just philosophical ideas meant for books and scriptures. They are sacred truths that bring comfort and deep peace to those who've lost someone dear, and to those who quietly carry the fear of death in their hearts. Yogananda often reminded us that understanding life's true nature, including what happens after death, can free us from unnecessary sorrow and fill us with a divine calm. In this video, we will explore this sacred passage in simple, clear words, where the soul dwells for those 13 days, what it experiences, how our prayers help, and what awaits it on the other side. So I invite you to sit back, perhaps close your eyes for a moment, take a deep, peaceful breath, and join me on this gentle exploration beyond the veil of death, into the eternal journey of the soul. Before we can understand where the soul goes after death, it is important to first ask, what is the soul? Who are we, really? From the time we are born, we are taught to identify ourselves with our name, our face, our body, and the roles we play in this world. But as Yogananda so beautifully reminded us, these are just outer garments we wear for a time. The body changes, the mind shifts, emotions rise and fall, but there is something within us that remains constant, untouched by time, unaffected by disease, and undisturbed by death. That eternal, unchanging presence is the soul. The soul is pure consciousness, a spark of the infinite spirit itself. It is neither born nor does it ever die. Yogananda often said, "You are not this body. You are not this mind. You are the immortal soul, a reflection of the divine light." This means that beyond our physical form, beyond the restless thoughts of the mind, lies our true essence, peaceful, blissful, ever free. The body is like a temporary house the soul lives in for a while, experiencing the lessons, joys, and sorrows of earthly life. But just as a person changes old clothes for new ones, the soul sheds the body at the time of death and continues its journey in a subtler, higher realm. Yogananda taught that the soul is the eternal observer behind all our experiences. It witnesses birth, growth, pain, and pleasure, but is never truly affected by them. Even when we sleep, it remains quietly aware, waiting for the body and mind to awaken again. And when the final sleep, called death, comes, the soul calmly withdraws from the body, leaving it like a discarded garment, and continues its conscious existence in the astral worlds. This understanding is the foundation for grasping what happens in those 13 days after death. It reminds us that death is not a loss or an end, but a movement of the soul from one realm to another. The soul carries with it the impressions of its life, the love it received, the kindness it gave, and the lessons it learned. It is not a lifeless spirit floating in darkness but a living, aware presence, forever connected to the infinite. Knowing this helps dissolve our fear of death and opens our hearts to the deeper truths of existence. Now that we have understood what the soul truly is, a pure, immortal spark of divine light, let us gently turn to the sacred moments that follow death. Paramhansa Yogananda explained that the very instant the soul leaves the body is an experience of profound release. It is as if a great weight has been lifted, and the soul, which had long been confined within the limitations of flesh, is suddenly free. Imagine a bird released from its cage, tasting the openness of the sky for the first time in years. That is the feeling the soul experiences when it steps beyond the threshold of death. In those first moments after death, the soul does not immediately rush off to distant realms. It often remains close to the earthly plane, hovering gently around its former body, its loved ones, and the places it once cherished. Yogananda described this period as one of tender transition. The soul, though free from physical pain and bodily limitations, still carries a subtle attachment to the life it just left behind. It may witness the gathering of family and friends, the rituals being performed, and even hear the cries of those who mourn its departure. But here lies a sacred truth that many forget: the soul can feel the emotions and thoughts of those around it. Though it no longer has ears or eyes as we know them, it perceives through a subtler awareness. This is why, in the moments after death, it is so important for those left behind to create an atmosphere of peace, love, and prayer rather than one of intense grief or despair. Yogananda urged families to chant holy names, meditate, and send blessings of light and calm to the departing soul. Such vibrations uplift the soul, giving it strength and peace as it prepares for its onward journey. In these first moments, the soul experiences a mixture of detachment and longing. It feels drawn toward the light and higher realms but may hesitate, pulled by its bonds of love and memories. The wise yogis of ancient times understood this delicate phase well and created rituals, chants, and prayers to lovingly guide the soul away from earthly ties and toward divine freedom. Yogananda reassured us that death is never to be feared. It is but a gentle passage from one form of life to another, and in those sacred moments, the soul is tenderly held by unseen, divine hands. After those first tender moments when the soul leaves the physical body, it begins a subtle journey that continues over the next 13 days. Paramhansa Yogananda lovingly described this period as a time of transition, when the soul remains within the earthly and astral planes, slowly withdrawing from its attachments to the material world and preparing for its ascent into subtler realms of light. It is a sacred time, both for the soul and for the loved ones it has left behind. During these 13 days, the soul does not immediately depart to distant heavens or enter a new life. Instead, it often hovers around familiar places, its home, the places it loved to visit, and the people it cherished. Drawn by the deep bonds of love and memory, the soul gently observes the earthly world, sometimes witnessing its final rites and hearing the prayers of its family and friends. Yogananda explained that in this state, the soul exists in the astral plane nearest to the physical realm, a dimension invisible to human eyes but vibrantly alive with subtle energies. The reason this 13-day period holds such importance is because the soul is in a delicate state of adjustment. It has left behind the limitations of the physical body but has not yet fully entered the higher astral worlds. It carries with it impressions of its recent life, its desires, attachments, fears, and joys. Slowly, during these days, the soul begins to loosen its hold on earthly experiences, preparing itself to move toward greater peace and light. In many ancient traditions, including the yogic path Yogananda upheld, special rituals, prayers, and offerings are performed during this period to assist the soul's transition. These acts are not mere customs, but channels of subtle energy, helping dissolve the soul's lingering attachments and guiding it upward. Holy chants, sacred fire rituals, and acts of charity done in the name of the departed soul create vibrations that uplift and comfort it. By the 10th or 13th day, depending on the tradition and the soul's state, it is gently released from the pull of the earthly plane. A final ritual is performed to bless the soul, lovingly sending it on its journey toward higher astral worlds. Yogananda reminded us that this entire passage is one of love, light, and divine care, a sacred bridge from the visible world to the unseen realms of spirit. During those sacred 13 days after a soul leaves the body, the role of the family and close ones becomes deeply important, not just for themselves, but for the peaceful journey of the departed soul. Paramhansa Yogananda often reminded his disciples that the love we share does not end with death. Love is a spiritual bond that transcends the body, the mind, and even the grave. In those tender days after death, the thoughts, emotions, and prayers of family members can powerfully affect the soul's state and ease its transition from the earthly world to the higher astral planes. Yogananda explained that in the astral world, souls remain sensitive to the vibrations of those they were connected with. If the family is weeping intensely, clinging with grief, or drowning in sorrow, those heavy emotions can pull the soul toward the earthly plane, slowing its progress toward the light. It is not that grief is wrong, it is a natural expression of love and loss. But there is a difference between healthy mourning and clinging attachment. Excessive sorrow ties the soul to the material world, creating a thread of longing that makes its departure more difficult. For this reason, Yogananda encouraged families to create an atmosphere of peace and spiritual calm after the passing of a loved one. Reciting holy mantras, chanting Om, reading sacred scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita or Bible passages that speak of the eternal nature of the soul, these generate powerful waves of uplifting energy. Acts of charity done in the name of the departed, feeding the poor, or offering service at a temple or church, also fill the surrounding space with compassionate vibrations that bless the soul on its journey. Another profound practice Yogananda recommended was silent prayer and visualization. Loved ones can sit quietly, close their eyes, and visualize the departed soul surrounded by a soft, radiant light, rising gently toward a beautiful, peaceful realm. This mental offering of peace and light uplifts both the soul and those left behind. The family's prayers act like invisible wings, carrying the soul upward, reminding it that it is loved and that it is free. In this way, our love, rather than chaining the soul with sorrow, becomes a sacred gift that helps it move peacefully toward the divine light it has always belonged to. As the sacred period of 13 days after death nears its completion, an important moment arrives in the journey of the soul, a point of transition, release, and blessing. Paramhansa Yogananda lovingly described this day as a milestone in the soul's passage from the earthly plane into the subtler, more luminous regions of the astral world. By the 13th day, the soul has gradually loosened its attachments to the material world and the memories of its recent life. The vibrations of prayers, loving thoughts, and sacred rituals performed by family and well-wishers have helped to ease its transition, clearing the path ahead. On this final day, many ancient yogic and Vedic traditions perform a special ceremony. It is not a mere ritual, but a deeply symbolic and spiritual act, one that serves two beautiful purposes. First, it honors the memory of the departed soul, expressing gratitude for its presence on earth and releasing any lingering bonds. Second, and most importantly, it sends a clear, loving message to the soul: you are free. Go in peace, and rise toward the light. Yogananda taught that this act of conscious release is one of the greatest gifts we can offer a departed loved one. According to the wisdom of the Masters, on the 13th day, the soul is gently guided by divine forces and its own karmic tendencies toward a region in the astral world appropriate for its state of consciousness. Souls of higher purity and love may ascend to beautiful realms filled with light, music, and joy. Others, still carrying certain attachments or unfinished lessons, may move toward environments where they can rest, reflect, and gradually learn in preparation for future journeys. The prayers and good deeds performed by the family on this day have the power to uplift the soul further. Yogananda emphasized that by offering acts of charity, feeding the poor, planting trees, or offering prayers for peace, not just for the departed but for all souls, the family creates a wave of spiritual energy that blesses the soul on its way. The 13th day is not an end, but a blessing-filled farewell, a final earthly embrace through love and prayer before the soul continues its eternal, divine journey. And in truth, as Yogananda reminded us, no soul is ever lost or alone. It remains forever in the embrace of the infinite spirit, moving from one beautiful experience of life to another. After the sacred 13-day period is complete, the soul, now gently detached from its earthly ties, moves further into the subtle, unseen realms of existence. Paramhansa Yogananda explained that the soul, after shedding the physical body, enters what is known in yogic teachings as the astral world, a luminous, beautiful dimension far beyond the limitations of our earthly senses. It is a world made not of solid matter, but of light, energy, and thought. And where the soul travels within this vast astral plane depends upon the purity of its mind, the nature of its actions on earth, and the desires it still holds. Yogananda often reminded his students that the afterlife is not a one-size-fits-all experience. Just as people on earth live in different conditions based on their inner qualities and choices, so too do souls find themselves in astral regions that reflect their state of consciousness. Noble, loving, and spiritually advanced souls ascend to higher, radiant spheres where peace, beauty, and bliss prevail. In these realms, there is no suffering, no disease, no decay, only harmony, music-like vibrations, and a deep, joyful communion with other awakened souls. Souls who are still bound by earthly desires, fears, or unresolved emotions may remain in lower astral regions, not as a punishment, but as a natural consequence of the energy they carry within. There, they rest, reflect on their earthly life, and slowly learn to release attachments in preparation for eventual rebirth or further ascension. In these dimensions, time as we know it does not exist. Souls move freely, experiencing environments shaped by their thoughts and karma. Yogananda described the astral world as far more beautiful and expansive than our physical earth. He said it is filled with radiant landscapes, crystal clear waters, shining cities made of light, and melodies that uplift the heart. In those higher realms, souls feel lighter, freer, and far closer to the divine presence. Ultimately, the soul continues its journey through these astral realms until, through deep spiritual evolution, it merges back into the infinite spirit, its true home. Yogananda assured us that death is not an end but a return to the vast, loving arms of the eternal. And though loved ones may be missed for a while, the ties of true love never break. The soul lives on, watching over its dear ones, and one day, in the great play of divine reunion, all souls shall meet again in the light of God. As we come to the end of this sacred exploration, dear soul, I hope this gentle journey through the mysteries of death and the soul's passage has brought a quiet comfort to your heart. Paramhansa Yogananda beautifully reminded us that death is not a tragedy, nor something to fear. It is a doorway to greater life, a transition into realms of light, peace, and higher understanding. The soul is eternal, untouched by the passing of time and the crumbling of the body. It simply moves from one chapter of its endless story to the next, always watched over, always guided by the tender hand of the divine. If you have ever lost a loved one, or if you carry the quiet fear of death within yourself, remember this truth: the soul is never alone. In those 13 days after leaving the body, it is surrounded by unseen, loving forces, and it feels the prayers, love, and good thoughts sent by those it leaves behind. Every kind word, every peaceful chant, and every act of compassion offered in its name becomes a bridge of light, helping it rise higher toward the realms of peace. Yogananda urged us to cultivate this understanding, not only to ease the journey of those who have departed but to prepare ourselves for the moment when our own time comes. When we live with the awareness of our eternal nature, fear dissolves, and life becomes richer, deeper, and more meaningful. Death loses its sting, and love becomes everlasting. If you found peace and wisdom in today's reflection, I invite you to join me on this beautiful path of inner discovery. Subscribe to this channel for more sacred wisdom from the yogic traditions, the teachings of great masters, and gentle guidance for the soul's eternal journey. I would also love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, experiences, or questions in the comments below. Have you ever felt the presence of a loved one after their passing? Have you experienced the comfort of prayer during such times? Your stories can light a lamp in someone else's darkness. And if you feel moved, share this video with someone who might be carrying grief or fear in their heart. Together, let us build a community where spiritual wisdom comforts, uplifts, and reminds us all of the eternal light within. Until we meet again, dear soul, may peace, love, and the gentle presence of the divine be with you always.